A vigil was held last night for the 8 people killed in a mass shooting over the weekend at a mall in Allen, Texas. And the Biden administration is preparing for the end of the restrictive border policy known as Title 42. Good morning. I'm Corva Coleman from NPR News, and here are today's top stories. Authorities in Texas are still investigating a motive for Saturday's deadly shooting at a large outlet shopping mall in Allen. It's near Dallas. 8 people were killed, 7 were wounded. Investigators say a police officer shot and killed the 33-year-old gunman. He has been identified as Dallas resident Mauricio Garcia. People gathered at the Allen Premium Outlet Mall last night to mourn those killed in the attack. Catherine Hobbs of member station KERA reports.
Community members congregate against a backdrop of black crosses adorned with flowers. Some are grieving losses of family and friends, and others are here to protest and demand action from their elected officials. Shonda Atkins says she arrived at the mall just as the shooter opened fire. She's here with her daughters holding signs that read, "Have y'all changed your mind on gun laws yet?"
I always come to Allen Outlet. It's always felt so safe to me. But when you look at the gun problem that we have as a whole here in America, it's time that we take a stance.
Atkins says she's shocked by the senseless violence. For NPR News, I'm Catherine Hobbs in Allen.
Separately, police in Brownsville, Texas, are trying to learn why a motorist drove into a group of people waiting for a bus yesterday. They're trying to learn if the incident was an accident or intentional. 8 people were killed. Some of the victims were migrants. The Biden administration is downplaying concerns that this week's expiration of the pandemic border restriction, known as Title 42, will result in thousands more migrants arriving at the U.S.-Mexico border. NPR's Franco Ordonez reports.
The pandemic-era health restrictions that allow the government to turn away most asylum seekers ends on Thursday. Senior administration officials tell NPR they plan nearly daily briefings this week to address the issue. The officials say they seek to counter a narrative by human smugglers who have been telling migrants their passage will be easier. The administration also wants to push back against Republicans' political messaging about, quote, open borders, which they say is encouraging more people to come north. Franco Ordonez, NPR News.
Fighting is reportedly continuing in Sudan. Tens of thousands of Sudanese civilians are fleeing to neighboring countries. Hundreds of civilians have already been killed in about 3 weeks of fighting. NPR's Aya Batrawi says that the Saudi government brought representatives of the warring Sudanese factions to Saudi Arabia to speak.
We've seen a flurry of diplomacy in just the last few days. There have been U.S.-Saudi-backed mediation talks in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, between the warring sides. Keep in mind, Saudi Arabia did use Sudanese fighters in its war in Yemen, so it has relationships with the warring generals in Sudan. The meetings in Jeddah are to discuss humanitarian corridors, so we're still a long way from agreeing on a ceasefire. But this is important because most of Sudan's hospitals are either shuttered or in dire need of basic medical aid.
NPR's Aya Batrawi reporting. It's NPR.